Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Bean here, and I'm coming to you with another recent reads. So the past month or so, I really haven't gotten nearly as much reading done as I normally do. I only made it through 8 books. However, I did manage to make it through some books that I have had on my shelf for quite a while, and so I'm really excited to share these with you, and several of them are also anticipated reads. So without any further ado, let's go right into it. The first book that I'm going to talk about today is actually the third book in this series, and that is The Double Helix, which is the third book in the Explorer Academy series by Trueit. Now, this is a series that I talked about in my last recent reads, and it follows a group of kids. Our main character's name is Cruz Coronado from Hawaii, who gets accepted into a school where he learns about exploring, which includes things like archaeology, history, diving, all of this kind of cool Indiana Jones type stuff that you would think of. He ends up with a bunch of different adventures that he goes on in order to solve this big mystery that his deceased mother has left him with. This is a middle grade book, and I really have been enjoying this series immensely. The fourth one actually comes out, I believe, the end of March, so that one should be out soon, and I plan on picking it up when it does come out. Overall, I ended up giving this one a 4.5 out of 5. The next book that I'm going to talk about is a collection of short stories that I have talked about before because I was anticipating it, and that is And I Do Not Forgive You, Short Stories and Other Revenges by Amber Sparks. This book is full of short stories that are a bit weird, they're a bit strange, but they are, for the most part, all feminist short stories. I'm not going to get into them because there were several in here, and I really did enjoy all of them. I would highly recommend this, and I do plan on going back and actually annotating this book because it isn't too long. I just had this desire to take notes while I was reading it, so I do plan on going back and doing that, and maybe I'll do a video on that. Let me know down below if you would like to see something like that. Overall, I gave this a 5 out of 5. The next book I'm going to talk about is another anticipated release, and that is Stormrise by Jillian Boehme. Now, this book takes place in a medieval Asia where a girl named Rain ends up joining the army pretending to be a boy. This is a Mulan retelling, and I think that was my one issue, was that it basically followed the plot of Mulan almost to a T. And while I understand that is what it means by retelling, it got a little too close to that. I needed more of a spin-off than I got in this one. So I love the writing style of this book, and I will definitely read something else by Jillian Boehme, but I ended up giving this one a 3.5/4. I'm still debating where it's going to sit at out of 5. The next 2 books I'm going to talk about together, and that's because they are the first 2 books in a graphic novel series, and that is Locke and Key Volume 1, Welcome to Lovecraft, and Locke and Key Volume 2, Head Games. These are both by Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez. Now these, if you haven't seen the Netflix show, it is brand new, and I am reading these before watching the show, and I'm kind of glad I am because these are super creepy stories. Super dark, super creepy. They follow a family of 3 kids and their mother who have recently gone through, their father was murdered, and they moved to their father's old home called Key House. And while they're there, the kids run across this mystery of the keys, where there's different keys, which you can see like on the covers here. There are different keys throughout the house that unlock different doors or unlock other aspects. So the second one, Head Game, was really quite intriguing and intense and disturbing at points. The man who murdered their father is still around and still hunting them down, and these kids went through hell and back with everything that happened to their family, and it's all about them getting through it, but also dealing with the madness that is around them. It's absolutely insane, and I cannot wait to continue this series. This art is very unique, very dark, very creepy, but still really well done, really beautiful, and I absolutely loved it. So I ended up giving the first volume 5 out of 5, and the second volume got 4.5 out of 5 for me. So I'm very excited to continue on with this series. The next book that I'm going to talk about is Sad Cypress by Agatha Christie. This is the 22nd book in the Hercule Poirot series, and this one was, again, a bit different. It followed a woman who has been accused of murder, and it goes back, starting from the day of her execution, and goes back to when she actually met the victim, and we try to decide if she's actually the one who did it. And I thought this was a very intriguing story. I am still loving these audiobooks, and while this one wasn't one of my top favorites, I still ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5. The next book that I'm going to talk about is another series of short stories, and that is Imaginary Museums by Nicolette Poleck. Now, this was an ebook that I had. I got this e-arc off of NetGalley, and this was a very interesting book. Very twisted, very confusing at points, I guess, and it really seemed like this would be the type of book where the short stories would be explored in details in like an advanced English class, because there were some that were pretty deep and pretty intense. They weren't long, but if you really thought about them, it could mess with your head for a little while. So I do highly recommend these. I ended up giving this book a 3.5 out of 5. I did enjoy it. I probably won't be reading it again, but I can again highly recommend it if you enjoy short stories that force you to think. And the last book that I'm going to talk about is one that I just finished recently, and that is Things in Jars by Jess Kidd. This was my January book of the month, and I got so into this book that I read it in less than 24 hours. It was that good to me. And this book takes place in Victorian London. It follows a young woman named Bridie, I believe is how you say it, who is an amateur sleuth. And so she is actually trying to be a detective. She has a background in the medical field, and she has recently solved a case that did not end well for her. She tried to save a child, and the child ended up dying. You do find this out within the first couple chapters, so I'm not spoiling anything. And as you can guess, her newest case involves a mermaid. And so this entire book is really quite heart-wrenching, and it goes back through Birdie's history and through her childhood and how she ended up where she is, and how she's connected to this mermaid, and how she's connected to those who kidnapped the mermaid, and all of this. And it is a very intense and heartfelt book. It's all about family and being yourself, really. I do highly recommend this book. It took me a little while to wrap my head around it at times because it did jump around as far as the time periods go. It jumped between many different years depending on the age of our main character. I really did enjoy this book, and I do plan on reading it again. Also, looking at this book now that I've read it, I understand the significance of all the snails, and it still kind of grosses me out a little bit, so I'm not gonna lie there. But I thought this was a well-developed idea that really got into some of the details and some of the possible realities with mermaids. It did remind me quite a bit of Mira Grant's Into the Deep, I think it is. Yeah, one of my favorite books, and I can't remember the title of it. Jeez. But it does not depict mermaids as these sirens that we all love, although the circus seems to think that, and it just keeps going. And I really, really do recommend this book. If you're into magical realism, this is kind of the heart of it for me, and so I really enjoyed this, and overall I gave this a 4 out of 5. So that's all I got for you guys today. Yeah, I haven't been reading nearly as much as of late, but hopefully that is about to change now that I have been getting into some more books that I'm really enjoying. I am getting back into the reading swing of things. But yeah, so That's all I got for you guys today. Now is a perfect time to hit that subscribe button down below and like our videos. If you want to be notified whenever we post new videos, hit the little bell icon down below. We post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And if you want to follow us on any social media, all of our Instagrams are down below, along with our Goodreads pages, which we spend a lot of time on, as well as our blogs, which we will have a video coming up talking about that. So look forward to that one, guys. And I will see y'all next time. Bye! Have you been laying down this entire time, Ace? That's rude. You shouldn't nap while I'm filming. Rude.